Hey everybody, thanks for joining us here at Book Blather. If you're new here, I'm Dave, this is Olive, and we try to have a little fun while we talk about books and some other things to help spread the joy of reading. So today we're doing a recap of Wasted Weekend. So if you're not familiar with that, it's a little mini reading event that's an offshoot of GarbAugust, which is an event run by Ollie over at Criminali, where in the month of August we read basically garbage. That's why it's called GarbAugust. So this is kind of a little offshoot of that, where it's just for a weekend. It's called Wasted Weekend in the middle of February, where again we just basically read books that are normally considered trash. And so we did a little TBR. That was just this past weekend. We did a little TBR beforehand. We read mostly what we had planned on reading, but we did have a little nice surprise. So we'll tell you about that now. So the one we had mentioned that we did not get to this past weekend was The Thousand-Headed Man, Doc Savage. This is the second Doc Savage book. So we had read the first one in GarbAugust. We thought maybe we would read this one if we got to it, but we didn't have time. But we will. We have the next few Doc Savage books, and we are going to be reading those. They're just fun meds and adventure. We just didn't get to it this weekend. So what did we read for Wasted Weekend? So the first one we read is The ESP Worm by Piers Anthony and Robert E. Margrove. Whoops. Did I bump you? So this book is, Piers Anthony, a very prolific sci-fi fantasy writer, the ongoing Xanth series, which is at almost 50 books. He wrote the Bio of Space Tyrant series, Incarnations of Immortality, tons of books. And then Robert E. Margrove, who is not such a famous sci-fi writer. And so they did a couple collaborations together, and this is one of them. So this was sent to our good friend Crystal, sent to us specifically for GarbAugust from our good friend Crystal at Fiber Artsy. And as I just told her, I think she owes us an apology for the time that we can never get back for reading this book. So, we're just kidding, of course. We love Crystal, really appreciate her sending us this book. But this book was absolute trash, like in every way. This book was, this book was absolutely crazy. What this book was about, it was like a sci-fi romp. What this was about was this ESP worm. So there's an alien worm who's a child that against his father's wishes, who is like a, galactic power, comes and comes to Earth. And so he's like sequestered to keep him safe until his father can come pick him up. And our main character, who's like the Minister of Intergalactic Affairs, the Minister of Intergalactic Affairs, and then this other woman doctor she's like a PhD extraterrestriologist or whatever. So those two go to see him in this like quote unquote prison, I guess, that he's staying in, and things go wrong. And so that starts an adventure for the three of them. And there's misunderstandings and deception, and they go off on this crazy adventure. And the worm is, of course, they like battling everybody, but the worm is a kid that is able to control humans' minds and make them do things. So, as you can imagine, it gets crazy. And so there's everything. There's like space battles. They go to like TV show, and I'm not going to ruin the whole thing, but there's like, of course, it's got like sexual overtones in this thing, and not just overtones. I mean, there's stuff, but it's like it ended up everything we read for Wasted Weekend was like sexually charged, which is not usually the stuff we're reading. But anyway, so including this one, so there was that, like, this character was like, it's set like in a future where like everybody's dressed, it's like sexually repressed society, and everybody covered everything up. Like women wear gloves, they can't even show any like part of their skin, and so of course he gets a thing for this doctor, and so as they and there are other sexually motivated aliens and things like that. So there's everything in this. This book was absolutely redonkulous. I mean, everything about this was ridiculous, and it was. But I mean, I'm not unhappy I read it. I just wouldn't. I mean, that happens. Like a joke around the house. Like there was this book I read, Devil's Day, that was like supposed to be a good book and by a respected author, and it was my vacation book, and it was so bad that like I was mad. I was actually mad that I read the book because I took it on vacation. A joke around the house, I'll be like, oh, it's not like Devil's Day, But anyway, I digress. I'm not upset that I read the book. It was kind of fun reading some of this ridiculous. I wouldn't recommend it though. So, all right. So that was that one. The next one was Olive read, right? You want to tell them about the book that you read? Olive read. So it started with, you need to pick me up. It started with at Christmas. I had wanted to try this. I had just seen this smutty book that we don't use called Grave Tidings by Salem Sinclair. And I don't usually read this kind of stuff, but I just, for some reason, it intrigued me, and I thought, let's do that for one of our Christmas reads, right? So read it, and it was kind of like ridiculous and over the top, and it was like hardcore type, like BDSM style, hardcore, and like not very well written, and so I said, okay, I tried it, and then that was it, and then Olive downloaded. Like the next Christmas one in that series called Yuletide Nightmare. And so then it was in the Kindle, so I had to read it. And then we talked about it, right, Olive? We said we weren't going to read any more of these books. And we, no more of those Monsters of Grimm like smut. And then Olive, Valentine's Day comes around and we're looking for trash. We talked about what we were going to read, and Olive just totally goes off the reservation and goes and downloads the next one in the series, this stupid Cupid. And so, so that's what Olive read. I mean, she told me about it. It was, right, you said, did you like the book? Olive, did you like that book? So these stories are set in this town called Grim Lake where humans and monsters, mythical monsters, live together. And so in this one, in the first book, Grave Tidings, we had met these characters, Noel, who's a human, and Krampus, right? And it gets nuts. And so this is a return to those two characters. It's now Valentine's Day. They're celebrating what's it called? I can't believe I can't remember now. Lupercia? Lupercia? I don't remember. But it's like it's a pagan holiday. Lupercalia? Lupercalia, that's what it was. Lupercalia. So it's I think, and that's like a pagan holiday that arguably, is related to has similar roots to Valentine's Day, according to some people. But it's different. It's much more sexually charged holiday, and it has to do with preserving fertility and stuff like that. So that celebration is coming up, and in the first book, when we had met these characters, Krampus, Noelle was on the naughty list, so Krampus was teaching her what happens to girls on the naughty list. And so this one's kind of like, for this holiday, kind of like they're celebrating this holiday, this sexually charged holiday, and Noelle kind of flips it around and shows Krampus some things, and so these books are. Did you like it? I don't know. Did you like that book? Yeah, she didn't really like it. I think Olive told me that it's getting kind of old, so we're not going to be reading any more of these. They're pretty badly written, and it's like really over the top hardcore BDSM stuff. So we're not going to read any more of those, right, Olive? Yeah, we're not going to read any more of those. So anyway, so that that was what it was. Then the next thing we read was we read this book called Unhinged by Vera Valentine. And the reason we read this, we hadn't planned on this. We read this because we saw Jessica over at Bad is Rad 2 talking about this book, and she was just in the middle of it. It looked like she was enjoying it. And as you can see, it's called erotic door romance. And it just looked so bizarre. I'm like, I got to check this out. I didn't know if I was going to read the whole thing. I got to see what this is about, like a door, So we got it. And this book was actually such a great surprise. I know it sounds ridiculous, but this book was actually good in every way. This book, well, I mean, if you like this sort of book, this sort of thing, like, the door thing is dealt with early, and I know that sounds ridiculous, but A little bit of brief mythology thrown in there. And so I thought it was actually kind of clever how that is dealt with. And what the story is about is this door, right? Not a spoiler, right? The door eventually turns into a guy. And so there's this door that he's guarding the apartment of this single woman that lives by herself, and he cares about her because he's, guarding her as her door all this time. And then there's this, bad character that's in the apartment building and like secretly entering her apartment. And so the door is worried about her and protecting her. And so it goes from there. But it was actually, like I said, the door thing was I thought that was pretty clever the way it was dealt with. It was very well written, the book. It wasn't super long, and the pacing was really good, so that it's like you didn't get bored at any point. Like I sat down and read this, and I just like read the whole thing. Like I was done. It was really good. And like it was a sexual book, but it wasn't like that ridiculous like stuff from Stupid Cupid. You know what I mean? This was like just the right amount. Like I would characterize this book, if you like this sort of thing, I mean, this book was hot. Like it was like just the right amount. It was explicit, but it was just the right amount. It was like a very sexy book, but not over the top. So I would actually like really recommend this book, even though at first blush it sounds kind of crazy. Really good. I had like no complaints about this book, whatever. I might look to see what else she has. I don't know if everything else she has is this style or if she's done other kind of books or whatever. But I don't know. I might look into it because I actually really enjoyed this. I guess this was my favorite thing that we read. Well, I only read two. I mean, Olive read Stupid Cupid. I didn't read that. But of the two that I read, it was my favorite thing, I think. So, right? So thanks to Jess for putting that on our radar. So that's what we read for Wasted Weekend. The ESP Worm by Piers Anthony and Robert Margrove. Stupid Cupid, Olive read Stupid Cupid by Salem Sinclair, and then Unhinged by Vera Valentine. So let us know what you read for Wasted Weekend if you partook in it. We'd be curious to see what you read and if you enjoyed those trashy stories. If you don't want to leave anything substantive, of course, you can always leave Olive a puppy emoji. She always does like to see those. So, but we'll see very soon. We'll get back to our regular TBR for the month. So we'll see very soon. We'll talk about some of the other books that we've been reading in February. But in the meantime, take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll see you next time.